All right, what's going on? So, we're going to get into the show very quickly here, just trying to get everything laid out. Looks like we're good. So, today is going to be a little bit more tactical. We're going to go into some training techniques because this is something that a lot of athletes need to understand better because a lot of athletes don't really think about their training the right way and they're just kind of going in and doing stuff because someone told them one time that that was a good thing to do. So, what we're going to get into today is how to properly develop power as an athlete. Excuse me. So, we're going to talk about how to properly develop power. Before we get into the show, though, guys, as always, the goal of this show is to help athletes reach new levels in their athletic careers, develop both as people and as athletes to see more success in their athletic careers. Now, we talk about a lot of stuff on this show. We talk about, mindset. We talk about things outside of the gym. We talk about, training volume. We talk about all these different things. Today, we're going to be nice and tactical. We are going to dig specifically into things you can things you can change, about your training in order to help you develop more power as an athlete. So we're going to get right into the show here, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about power development for combat athletes. Now, as we get into this one, I want to preface this by saying this is going to be a pretty quick episode, and I want to make one thing very clear. Every athlete struggles in different areas, and as a result, the way that you are going to develop power most effectively might change. So I'm not sitting here saying do only exactly this and that's what's going to help you, develop the knockout power you're looking for. What I am saying is these are the principles you need to follow if you want to see your power improve drastically. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is why we're getting into this topic today. So the reason I wanted to bring this to you guys is because a lot of the training methods I see are just very random. Like, athletes are kind of just trying things, but then when I ask them, well, why do you do it like that? They don't really have an answer for me. They just say, well, I'm trying to build my power, so I'm just like going to the gym and hitting the bag really powerfully, and so that's going to build my power. But they don't have any, evidence behind it, or they don't have any like real structure behind it. They're just trying shit and hoping that it works. So we're going to dig into the specifics and the why behind the specifics so that you can actually start making better use of the time you're training and in turn start seeing the success you're looking for in your sport. Now, let's talk power development. So the first thing I want to get into here is what power actually is going to do for you when you step into the ring or the cage. So obviously, as you know, the more explosive you are, hopefully the harder you're going to be able to hit and the more you're going to be able to connect because you're going to be able to do it faster without your opponent actually seeing it coming. Now, what a lot of people think, and I've been guilty of this way, way back in the past when I was powerlifting as well, is if I want to be more powerful, all I have to do is move more explosively. And if I move more explosively more often, then I'm going to be more powerful. So I see a lot of people put these routines together where they're doing explosive training, but they're doing it for really long durations. And they're thinking, this is going to help me be more explosive for longer times. So I'm going to just like hit the bag for a full minute going as hard as I possibly can, thinking that that's going to be what makes them more explosive. But the thing I need to reinforce with you guys is using your power and developing your power are two different things. And that's what we're going to talk about first. So using your power and developing your power are two different things. First off, using your power is things like hitting the bag, sparring, etc. When you're trying to just connect with hard punches more often, you're using your power. And obviously, by improving your technique, by training more often, by trying to be more explosive, you are going to see some moderate improvement. So you are going to see some moderate improvement. But the way that you're going to see even more is by building up the structure behind the powerful shots that you're throwing. So if you're trying to develop your power right now, I need you to understand that it needs to start from foundational strength. So if you are in a position where you're not lifting weights 2 to 3 times a week, all you're doing is just sparring, drilling, all of that, You need to understand that if you want to develop the power that you're looking for, it needs to start with foundational strength. Why? Because the stronger the structure in the body, the more explosive you're going to be able to be. Power comes from the potential that you build by building a stronger athlete. So I know a lot of people out there that think that, lifting weights is just going to make them big and slow. But the problem with that, and what a lot of people don't take into account, is that lifting weights makes you quote unquote big and slow when all you're doing is lifting weights and you're not doing the other training on top of it. So in order to develop your power, you do need to be stronger, because if you are going to throw an explosive punch, you need to put force behind that punch. And force comes from being stronger. So the first thing we're going to start with is a regular strength training routine, 2 to 3 times per week. That's it. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be super extensive. 2 to 3 times per week. You're going to hit 2 to 3 lower body strength exercises for 4 to 6 reps, 3 to 5 sets. That can be a squat, that can be lunge variations, anything where you're focused on building strength, from your posterior chain, your glutes, your hamstrings, your lower body. And as that lower body gets stronger, you are going to also be hitting 2 to 3 upper body strength exercises within this routine. And the reason we're mixing up a full body routine and not just pounding the legs one day and then pounding the upper body the next day is because, along with the strength training routine, the key is being able to continue to do the skill training that is going to ultimately lead to the more powerful shots. Because if you are pounding your legs with a crazy hard leg day on one day, you try to go box the next day, you're not going to be able to move very well because your legs are dead. And then you're missing out on that one element of creating a more powerful athlete, which is actually being technically proficient in the sport. But if we're hitting the full body consistently 2 to 3 times a week and not annihilating it every time we hit it, now you're going to be able to build more power, because you're going to be getting stronger through the whole body and you're not sacrificing the skill sessions along with it. So first thing, 2 to 3 times per week, strength sessions, full body, 2 to 3 lower body, 2 to 3 upper body exercises, focused on developing power through the posterior chain. And the upper body exercises, we want to concentrate on building up through the pecs, through the shoulders, and through the arms to make sure that you have a strong chain behind every punch you throw. So first off, make sure that all makes sense. Make sure that you have all of that written down. 2 to 3 lower body exercises, 2 to 3 upper body exercises, focused around posterior chain in the lower body, focused on building up strong joints around the shoulder in the upper body. One of the main key points along with that as well is going to be core strength, because one of the key components of being able to throw more powerful punches, being able to throw, faster punches, being able to connect more on your shots and do more damage, is power transfer from the lower body to the upper body. And if you have a strong upper body and a strong lower body, but no ability to transfer power from one to the other, what's going to happen is you're going to waste a lot of energy, and every shot you throw is going to take away more energy than it needs to. And every time you throw those, not very efficient shots, to put it lightly, it's going to take a lot of energy out of you, which means your power is going to drop off faster. So that is the basis of the strength work. And then as that strength work starts to improve, if you really want to build your power, what you need to take into account is energy systems. So when it comes to the skill training that you're doing, if you're hitting the bag and thinking, I'm going to go for 30 seconds to a minute and throw really powerful shots, and that's how I'm going to build my power, what I need you to understand is the energy systems, and something called the anaerobic alactic energy system, which is your ability to move at 100% intensity. The reason this is so important is because that system fades after 10 to 12 seconds. So the first 10 to 12 seconds that you're throwing those power shots, you're at 100%. After that, it starts to fade off. So if you're truly trying to improve your power and improve your ability to just output behind one punch or output behind one hard kick, you need to be working in bouts of 10 to 12 seconds at 100% intensity. And as you move past that, even if you feel like you're at 100%, it's starting to fade off. So is it still going to maybe feel some power improvements? Sure. But if you want that overall, just how much power can I put behind a shot to improve, you need to be working in that range because that is true, actual power. So the way I'd recommend doing this is when you go to hit the bag, whether it's after a boxing session, whatever else, you're just going in on your day off or whatever it might be, get yourself warmed up, make sure the body's moving well, you're feeling sharp, you're feeling fast. And then what you're going to do is put on a timer, and every minute on the minute, you are going to throw power shots for 10 seconds. Yes, only 10 seconds. The reason why it's only 10 seconds is that anaerobic alactic system fades after 10 to 12 seconds. So from 0 to 10 seconds on the timer, you're throwing power shots absolutely as hard as you can. From 10 seconds, all the way up to a minute, you're resting, like straight up, just light moving, barely touching the bag. And then when it hits the 1 minute mark, 10 seconds again, and you're going to do it for only 10 minutes. And I understand that this feels like you might not be doing enough. And, am I really pushing hard enough? Am I really going long enough? Whatever it might be. But remember, if the goal is building power, you need to work within the constraints of how power is developed, which is max effort. And if your ability to output at 100% improves and you're able to output more, what that's going to do in turn is that's going to make every shot that's sub-maximal effort, every shot that's not at that 100%, take less of your overall energy. And if that takes less of your overall energy, now you're able to output at a higher pace, throwing more power for longer while you fight. So it's a very basic breakdown because, again, I want to keep it simple. But what I want to reinforce with you guys as you listen to this, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching it back on the replay, listening to the podcast, whatever it might be, is that if you're listening to this and it's starting to click with you that, if I want to develop power, I need to be at 100% intensity or as close to it as I can be. And I need to start working in these lower rep ranges, this lower duration of exercises. In order to do that, I need to start, also improving my strength, all of that, everything I just talked about in that podcast. If this is resonating with you and you're starting to understand it, but you're still not sure, this is where you need to ask questions. Because guys, you can throw together your own programs. You can try to put stuff, into a session and think that, okay, I'm just going to get it done and figure it out. But it's just not how it works. If you truly want the best result, you need someone who actually can help you build that result. And the big thing that I see a lot of athletes do is they'll listen to something like this talking about power development, and then they'll put together a power program thinking, I've got all the answers now. I've got it figured out. Let's go do it. But what they miss is they're always overlooking one area. They're hitting the power stuff properly, but they're not hitting the strength stuff properly, or they're hitting the strength stuff properly, but they're overdoing it on the power output, which takes away the result. And if you're missing one area, this won't work. So you need to make sure that you're hitting everything properly. So if you're listening to this, talking about the power development, like we've been talking about, and you're starting to click, the gears are starting to turn, you're starting to understand that I've been doing it wrong, and these are the ways that I need to shift it, reach out. Ask questions, research, because if you can continue to research and continue to get better, now you're going to get more efficient results. You're going to get more results faster. And ultimately, that's the goal. Because even when I talk about this stuff, I have a lot of athletes tell me, what do you mean? Only 10 minutes? I'm only going to work for 10 minutes and that's going to build my power? And they feel like they need to do more because, the more training you do, the better. But the problem, guys, is it's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things. And if you want to develop power, what I talked about today is how it works. So that is what you need to stick to. And you need to stick to that 2 to 3 times a week for a good long duration of time to start seeing those proper results come through. If you just try that session 1 or 2 times, and then you say, well, I don't feel more powerful. It's like, yeah, because you only did it 1 or 2 times. Like, results aren't magical. They don't just appear. You have to work at it consistently. And in anything I ever talk about in this podcast, on these videos, in anything I ever talk about, that is the answer. Consistent work at these things is going to be the answer, always and forever. So if you need to go back and listen to that again to just really reinforce what you actually need to be doing to develop your power. Go back, listen to those key points, put together some sessions, try some things out, but remember, it's not going to work if you don't stick to it. It's not going to work if you don't stick to it. You need to build those sessions out and try them twice a week for the next 12 weeks. And if you stick to it for that long and you see no improvement whatsoever, that means something's wrong. You need to switch it up. You need to keep improving. Consistency is the key over everything. But let's review quickly. If you were an athlete and you were looking to develop your power in the ring or in the cage, the number one thing you need to focus on is building strength. If you are not on a regular strength training routine, and I feel like a broken record saying this because I say this in so many of our episodes, but it is so important. If you are not on a regular strength training routine, you are missing the boat. You are not going to be able to develop power at the same level because strength is the base of power. Now, number two, you need to focus on actually training power properly. If you're just going out there and hitting the bag as hard as you can for a full minute, the energy systems in your body start to fade off. The power that you're actually able to output starts to fade off. And in turn, you're not outputting at 100%, which means you're not getting the power adaptations that you're looking for. Start reducing the overall time that you are, like time of your work sets. Start increasing the rest time so that every effort you complete within the session is at or as close to 100% as possible. And if you do that, the power is actually going to improve. If the power actually improves, every effort on sub-maximal effort, every effort that is not at 100% is going to start to take less and less of your overall energy output, which means you're going to be more efficient, more explosive, and in turn, more dangerous when you hit the ring of the cage. So that is it. That is all. I hope you guys got some value from that. If you did, I would love to know what it is. Make sure to drop me a message directly on social media. All the ways that you can do that are going to be in the show notes below. Also, if you got some value from this, share it with a friend, share it with a coach, share it with a teammate, share it with someone who's going to need to hear this message, going to need to improve the way that they're training. And all in all, I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll talk again soon.